Greetings, I'm Shad, and it's been over 4 years since I released my novel, Shadow of the Conqueror, and since that time the overall reception to it has been honestly overwhelming. Calculating all the sales of the book across every medium, which is, ebook, paperback, and audiobook, I've sold over 40,000 copies, and, keeps on going. Yet since the release of my book, I've also been more open about my views on many things. I don't dive into it heaps on Shadiversity specifically. In actual fact, I've made another channel, Night's Watch, to separate any political views I have, also views I have about modern day media, but I am very open about those views on Night's Watch, and you also probably have seen that I am really passionate about AI art as well these days. So much that I even have a new channel called Shad AI, where I am able to separate the video content onto another channel, showing tutorials, addressing the controversies, having debates with people who are very much against it, and all that stuff. And I do like to make community posts just sharing new content on Shad AI to help the channel grow, but the content is not on Shadiversity specifically. Yet with me being outspoken about these things, it has upset a lot of people who disagree with me, which I find very unfortunate because I genuinely believe that people are capable of getting along even when they disagree strongly about many things, especially ideology and politics. And that's even more important, to learn to get along with people we disagree with, because people like me, I have very firm views. I'm not going to be changing unless you give me really good argument and evidence. So instead of cutting ties completely and just disassociating, wouldn't it be much better to just learn to get along? What does this have to do in relation to my novel? Well, because there are a lot more people who dislike me for me being outspoken on many things, there is, of course, far more criticism and attacks against me. And one of the unfortunate kind of points of attack people have recently been trying to take a shot at me is in my novel, Shadow of the Conqueror. But instead of focusing on the negative and giving people who don't like me the attention that they seem to be after, I want to focus instead on the positive and also share with you what the actual overall view and opinion of my novel from general readers. People who either don't have an issue with me or are able to be objective about reviewing, media that comes out. This isn't to say my novel is for everyone. Of course not. There are things that are going to be just far too unpalatable for a lot of readers. I did that on purpose. The story of my novel is about a tyrant. One of the worst people who has ever lived. He is equivalent to like the Stalin or Hitler of his world. So he's done some awful, terrible things, but the premise of the book is, could someone like that possibly be redeemed? And it follows his journey as he comes to a realization of how evil he really was. The novel deals with some really dark subject matter, including rape, abuse, genocide. I mean, this is a tyrant, and I did look to historical examples of the type of character that I was constructing. And one of the interesting things you do need to confront with a story like this is, how do they approach relationships? And when looking at, how Genghis Khan kind of approached relationships and his treatment of women, there's some troubling things that historical figures like that have done, and one of the goals of my novel was to not pull any punches, okay? If it gets uncomfortable, well, it's funny. All the terrible things that my character, Dalen, has done in the past, because this is all actually in the background of the novel, is not equivalent to what real-world figures individually have done. He has done awful things in lesser extents, in that you can draw parallels from multiple historical figures, including tyrants of the past, and then I kind of took them all and put them into one confronting character. And so my goal was to try and see if people would be willing to go along the journey with this character. And pushing it far, I was kind of happy for all right, if I make maybe 80% of people can go along with this, difficulties, the challenges of this character, and there's probably 20% that's going to be way too much and unpalatable. The overall consensus, which I want to share some things with you, what the consensus is of the book, is actually a lot more people seem to be willing and on board with the journey of this character. So looking at the audiobook adaptation of Shadow of the Conqueror, which was narrated by Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, and they did a phenomenal job. Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, they did the audio narration for Wheel of Time, the book series. Also Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, Stormlight Archives. So absolutely amazing narrators. And genuinely, I think the audiobook is one of the most enjoyable ways to consume Shadow of the Conqueror. So out of nearly 6,000 ratings. So we're looking at 5,978. The overall consensus is 4.6 out of 5 stars, which is like, that humbles me, and it's just absolutely amazing. It's more kind of it's a more positive reception of my book than I ever dreamed. Remember, I was thinking, maybe like 80% of people would understand, there's going to be a 20%. It looks like a lot more people have really, really enjoyed the novel, Shadow of the Conqueror. If we sort the reviews just by most recent, and so this is not filtering by the most positive reviews, these are the reviews of what the most recent people who have read the book, and it is like, it's hard to kind of put into words, because you kind of dream that a book would be received with this level of positivity, and it's out of your hands, though, when you release it into the world. People will, not pull back any punches, and the critics of the novel, is not everyone loves it. They don't pull any punches, and then the people who particularly dislike me end up actually saying flat-out dishonest things. I don't listen to all of them, because you never want to dwell on the negativity, but you do want to actually be open to legitimate criticism. And so on the occasional thing, I will, listen to a negative review here and there. And some actually, I can understand where they're coming from. It's like, all right, you're being fair. Thank you for being fair. But then there are other ones that just flat out misrepresent the book completely and lie about it. And that does put me in an interesting position as an author, because to what level should an author defend his work when there are objective lies being spread about the book that you could literally just read sections of the book which contradict what people are saying? So that's just an unfortunate thing, but okay. It's much better to dwell on the positive, but this isn't me actually filtering for the positive. This is just most recent reviews, and still, the reception is just really, really encouraging, and I thank everyone who has given my novel a try. And so as we see some of the reviews here on Audible, full 5-star across the board, couldn't put it down. We have, again, full 5 stars, A Book of Redemption. I must say, this book has been a fantastic ride from the start to the end. One of the best reads. You love and hate the main character, and it is so well written. And I'm like, yes, that's like, this is a difficult concept and story to try and manage. And yeah, the character, there is so much to loathe about this character. But when I hear feedback like that, I'm like, that's what I was going for. Full 5 stars again, fun, imaginative, and original. If you're looking for a good book to dive into, this is it. Wish it was a series. Now, just on that note, it's a standalone with sequel potential. At the moment, I'm quite happy to let Shadow the Conqueror kind of rest for a bit and be a standalone novel, although there are sequels that I do want to write for it eventually. Not full 5 stars, but this reviewer says potential for a first book. I believe it is good. It has enough details to interest and intrigue, but with the freedom to enjoy. Continue on. Someone says, my favorite. I have listened to this like 5 times now. Awesome story that is meaningful. The perfect mix of fantasy and sci-fi. This was one of the other things I really enjoyed writing the novel, is I wanted to approach the fantastical elements, the magic, like hard science fiction. And that's why one of the descriptive genre types you could apply to Shadow of the Conqueror is hard fantasy, where hard science fiction is science fiction where the science really matters. Hard fantasy is like that, where the magic is explained in almost a scientific way. Great book, if a tad predictable. Next review is, great story. I've enjoyed Shadow of the Conqueror very much and would love to hear more stories from this fascinating and magical world. And now here we have a mid review, a mid book by A Dork Afraid of Female Empowerment. Now, this one is interesting because clearly I'm not. There's a lot of female characters that are, Alita Battle Angel, of course, is one of my favorite, honestly. And so it's not female empowerment. This is the type of story that I was going for. Another full 5-star review, feeling sorry for a tyrant. Bold choice to make the main character, Dalen, a monster similar to Mao, Stalin, and Hitler, and managing to make me empathize, root for, and feel sorry for Dalen. This story is great. The diversity of these humans are written in a way that makes biological and geographical sense. Well, thank you. And they honestly keep going. If you look at the reviews, sort by most recent, you will get a very clear idea of what most people kind of feel about the book. And I think it's one of those things where you know, quite... Oh, of course, any author would be happy with these types of reviews and feedback. Now, I like the book. I wrote it to my, you know, my preferences and interests. And so is it to me to say it's good? I know I enjoy it. I wrote it for that purpose. But I think it would be fair to say that the book is very well received by most people that read it. As we can see, I'm not filtering away negative reviews, but overall, hugely positive. The same when we go to just the Amazon review page. If we sort by most recent, we have the most recent reviews, 5 stars. They say, great book. This one actually is a really interesting review, utterly unique, a mind-blowing different story of a main character, and they say, I can't believe I'm rooting for this guy, but I am. I refuse to say more than that. You wouldn't believe me anyway. You would think I was nuts. You would say that this can't be the protagonist. He sounds awful. Well, yes, he is, and he admits it. That's the incredible part, they say. Shad has managed to create a person and a world that is as deep as it is fun. For those wondering, yes, it's clearly part of a series, but this first book is a complete story with a satisfying ending. I really look forward to the next one. And that is what I was going for. I was trying to make a complete story that could stand on its own merit with sequel potential. And I do intend to write the sequels, just not for a bit. Like I said, I'm letting it rest and I'm working on another novel in the meantime. A heroic effort, and again, these are just the most recent reviews, and you can kind of see that this is what most people are feeling about the book. And so I think I have a certain, at least a little bit of right to say that it's a good book. And if you like this type of, you know, fantasy, epic fantasy, well, there's a good chance that you will really enjoy the novel as well. I'll end off with this review here. They say, impressive book, I found difficult to put down. I'll admit I bought this book because of my love for Shad's YouTube channel. I wasn't expecting much, especially given it was his first novel. I was pleasantly surprised to find this to be one of the most engrossing novels I've read in a while. Not since Project Hail Mary have I read a book that I simply couldn't put down. Oh. Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate it. That means a lot. And the Amazon reviews are sitting on 4.6 out of 5 stars. That is with 2,400 ratings. So looking at the overall consensus, after 4 years since, you know, publishing my novel, it's really positive. And that just... Thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you for everyone who has read my novel, and even people who didn't like it. I appreciate you giving the time to take a look at it. So for you as a potential reader, or for people who have read the novel, it is interesting to try and determine if, you know, you'll like a book before having read it. And one of the ways that people do is to look for reviews. I'm a reviewer. I review lots of media on Night's Watch. I wouldn't say rely on my review alone, or any one single person's review. You'd want to see what a collection of reviewers think about it, and one of the best ways that you can go to have a look at what the majority kind of view of my novel and a lot of novels are. You can go to the Amazon page, the Audible page, look at reviews, sort by most recent, and see what the most recent people reading the book think about it. Of course, that isn't a surefire way. Like, we have seen kind of review bombing is an interesting thing. Hasn't happened to me yet, neither positive nor negative, but it can happen on both ends. But you know, it's usually an interesting phenomenon. But at the moment, I think sorting by most recent is a very fair way to go about it. The novel is still available on Amazon and Audible. And also, I have produced a graphic novel adaptation, which is going to be now in 3 parts. And the first part already had a launch on Indiegogo, and we are in the final stages of the fulfillment. Like the final stages because everything's been printed. Printed, like the book and novels, because there was a second edition version of the novel exclusively available through the Indiegogo. Hopefully I'll make it more generally available later on, as well as the graphic novel. And it's got like a new the graphic novel has new covers, but the second edition has new covers for the novel as well. But those are so close to going out, you have no idea. So that's really exciting. Volume 2 of the graphic novel adaptation, the principal artwork is already done, and we're already working on colours. And so Volume 2 isn't that far away, either in launching. When I say that far, I don't know, it'll still be several months. So these could be tricky things to get going. Now, I think it's also fair because I haven't done like a big video on Shadow the Conqueror in a bit, and so updates are important, and there are a good number of people who don't know about the current state of the short film. Shadow the Conqueror was so popular that there was a small production company that wanted to try and make a short film. It was Project Iradia, and they did launch a Kickstarter to try and raise funds to produce the film. Unfortunately, it looks like the short film has stalled. To the point of not being able to get completed. Iradia Productions released a video sharing the difficulties that they've run into in regards to the short film, and they were very upfront and honest about everything. It's very unfortunate that it's where it is, where things are at where it is. I was there to help out in really any way I could. I was there filming as well, and I can attest that, especially the project leads, so like Dylan, I can understand how guilty he feels about where the project's ended, but from my perspective, I honestly see a guy who tried his very best. He did not pay himself a cent, okay? All the money that was raised through the Kickstarter was spent on the production. I wasn't paid it either. I flew out to Canada on my own dime, paid for my travel and accommodation, to try and give it every, boost I could to help, Iradia Productions do the project that they were after. It wasn't my project to begin with. They were very determined I wanted to do it. I tried to help in every way I could. That's where the short film is at right now. Unfortunately, if I'm in a position in the future where I have, a spare, like 100 grand, which, I'm not sure if I'll ever get to that point, right? But Dylan Iradia Productions has made what we filmed available to anyone who requests it, okay? The principal filming did get done. It's the post-production, which they don't have the funds to complete. And if I'm ever in a position, maybe I'll try and finish the film, the short film myself, because there were so many people who really tried their best, especially Dawson, who played Dalen, and everyone, of course. They put their heart and souls into the short film. And so maybe I might be able to try and do something with it in the future to not let it be forever kind of lost. And look, and I understand that Iradia tried their very, very best. Things really just did not work out, unfortunately, and that's where it's at the moment. And so you can go to Iradia Productions and see the update video that Dylan put out. Even with it having, at the moment, failed, we don't know what the future will hold still with it. I'm still very grateful for the effort that he put into it, and so that is where it's at. I'm looking to the future, to, of course, got lots of projects working on. Got my next novel, which is not the sequel. It's a different, but it's a medieval fantasy, and so that one I'm working on. I'm working on graphic novel production. The Shadow the Conqueror graphic novel is, moving ahead very, very I'm excited about it in a great way. And also other projects that I'm working on as well. So thank you for everyone who's joined me in this video. Thank you to everyone who's read Shadow the Conqueror and given it a go. And of course, thank you to everyone who has loved the book and become a fan. I especially thank you, absolutely. And so until next time, farewell.